So today, to continue our Inazuma 11 Victory Road coverage, we're going to be talking about the gameplay and doing a full gameplay analysis from everything we've been given so far. So let's dive in. So let's just talk straight up about how the gameplay of this game is going to work. Now obviously the big question about Inazuma 11 coming to Switch is how exactly they're going to translate the stylus gameplay and like the whole touchscreen drawing of players to drag them and clicking on things to shoot and stuff, how they're going to translate that to a Switch where that's not really an option. Well, it turns out the way they're going to do it is by making that an option. And so we're going to be using the touchscreen of the Switch in order to draw lines, pass, and shoot, and I'm assuming all of that kind of stuff. But obviously the big thing is that that doesn't work if you want to play it docked, and you want to put it in the handy Switch dock and play it with a controller, and so the game is going to have two modes. Two modes that you can switch between whenever you want, at any point during the match, and that is the whole touchscreen mode, or you can turn it into more of a strikers / FIFA type gameplay where you're using a controller and you can have it docked, and I think you can also use it like handheld but with the controller like strikers. So essentially the whole idea of it is giving you the ultimate freedom to play however you like, whenever you want, however you want, so on and so forth. And also, there's going to be like a special pen released for the game. They're considering that possibility. So that will be a stylus so that you don't have to use like your finger. You can instead use the special stylus, and it makes the whole touchscreen thing a lot easier. And now to add more on top of that, in terms of even more types of gameplay in the game, you can change the perspective of the game in like with handheld. I've got an image that should show you guys that what I mean in a bit more detail. But like you can essentially flip it like in have it as a phone type deal, like I guess an iPad type deal, and so have it like vertical, or you can choose to have it horizontal and handheld, and then you can switch between that at any time. And so it's going to be fluid, it's going to be basically you do whatever you want to get the gameplay you want and the perspective you want. It's all about the player, which I think is fantastic. And just a heads up, is there are potential adjustments to be made to this, they are saying to prevent unfairness during the match. I guess if they want to make it online, there's always the possibility that if one of the methods is potentially a bit better than one of the other methods, then for instance, maybe a player who uses touchscreen could be at this disadvantage compared to a player who uses controllers. But that's the basic gist of what the actual gameplay is going to be like. So now we're going to take a look at some of the gameplay images and analyze and dissect those. So first of all, massive thank you to Zikria AK for giving me a ton of analysis to work with for all these different screenshots. And the first thing is you can see in this screenshot, we have a match with a bunch of players on there and a ton of UI information that we can take a look at. One of the easiest things to take a look at is the players being dragged, so obviously showing that's the touchscreen in action, where you can drag those players. And it also has a handful of returning players that we now know for certain are going to be returning to the game in its chronicle mode. So obviously just in this basic formation screen, we can see pauses return, we can see the cute little mini-map in the top corner with like the formations, we can see obviously the score there. All the information's being put here in one screen compared to the two screens, which I personally prefer. It looks a bit closer to like Strikers' layout for the UI, which I really like. And we can also see that luckily it's quite easy to tell who is who, despite how like zoomed out the perspective of the gameplay is, which I like. Strikers for me was always a bit too zoomed in. The pictures felt really small. Here they feel a lot bigger, and the players themselves are a lot smaller, but it means that more players can fit on the screen at once. Also, just off the top of my head, I just thought of this, but there are certain strategies in the current Galaxy meta which involve dragging your players, like your defenders, back to the box in order to be able to shot block opponents quite easily. And it just occurred to me that might be quite hard to do with a controller. And so maybe that's what they mean by the unfairness, is strategies like that will be hard to do with a controller, but will be easier to do with touchscreen. So I guess there's certain elements like that might be more difficult, more easy, and so I can see why they're going to make adjustments to possibly prevent any kind of unfairness. But if we move on to this image, we can see Aphrodite taking a shot on Mark. Just a quick thing this confirms is that Aphrodite is still wood element and Mark is still earth element. Another thing Zikria AK says here is that FP and PP are very high and so won't be too much of a concern for the player, unlike in Inazuma 11 3 where generally they're pretty low. The numbers on display, 79 and 61, seemingly show the player's stat power. Zikria theorizes based off these numbers that this formula to calculate these stat numbers are going to be similar to Chronostones. And then we can also see Aphrodite's moveset. Now, based off this, we can assume Aphrodite has another move, which is probably Heaven's Time, and is going to be a dribble move, but the shots are God Knows, God Break, and Chaos Break. God Knows costs 52 TP, God Break costs 64 TP, and Chaos Break costs 67 TP. God Break and Chaos Break have not been seen since Inazuma 11 3, so it's really cool to see them back. And at the very top, we can see just a normal shot that costs no TP. And one of the other cool things to notice here is a timer for your special move shots, which I think is a good thing for online. It means the matches will be a lot faster paced. I think that's one of my criticisms of Inazuma 11, is it's supposed to be a really slow paced game, which is weird for a football game, with lots of pausing, menu selection. It's a very slow paced competitive game, which is so weird considering what it is. It's a football game, so why is it so slow paced? But no, so if we see here, obviously the timer means that generally maybe these menus are going to be a bit faster to get through, and so the entire pace of the game is going to increase, which will be absolutely huge, and I'm 100% a massive fan of that. And generally speaking, that's all the gameplay analyzed, and that's all the images we've been given and all the information we've been given. Now I'm going to make more videos about Victory Road coming soon. I have a video planned about Chronicle Mode, and some summary videos coming out in the near future, so make sure you subscribe for that, and make sure you subscribe also to keep updated on any potential news coming out on the game, whenever that is. If you want to be one of the first to know, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Bye.